Okay, welcome to all those who've taken a time to join us here today. We're excited to be with you here at the Aurora Institute. We've got a great team to talk to you a little bit today about our topic about teaching, assessing, and reporting those transferable social emotional skills from your portrait of a graduate. I'm going to start by introducing ourselves. First of all, my name's Corey Henwood, and I am the Innovation Coordinator at Iron County School District. I take on strategic innovation in the district, including digital teaching and learning and computer science, and of course, personalized competency-based education, which I'm very passionate about. One of the most exciting projects we've taken on recently is the development of a personalized competency-based high school, and that school is called Launch High School. And Launch High School allows for students to progress at their own pace and demonstrate mastery through projects that are done primarily with the local community or local business leaders and the like. And as they demonstrate mastery through those projects, they're able to advance in their courses and their credit. Really, it's been wonderful work. So I brought two of the teachers there from Launch High School today to be with you, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Heather Lambert. I am teaching at Launch High School this year. I have previously taught at a middle school for the last 16 years. I love kids. I'm excited about competency-based learning and really enjoying my time at the high school.
Hi, I'm Cody Christensen, and I have taught English at a previous high school for 23 years, English language arts. And Launch High School just sounded like the perfect new thing to try to tackle, and so we're enjoying this whole new process.
Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed those fly-in PowerPoint style transitions of people. And that's a lot of fun. We're just excited again to be with you today. We want to also get to know a little bit about you. And so we have just a quick poll to tell us about yourself. You're also welcome to introduce yourself in the chat, who you are, what you do, and where you're from. But I'm just going to launch a quick poll for us to get to know you better in your role and your experience with Portrait of a Graduate. So we're going to launch that now. You should see that poll come up on your screen. So if you'd answer those questions, and then we'll share the results here in just a minute. Okay, just another 25 seconds or so to answer the questions in the poll. And then again, we'll have the results here for you. Happy to see so many of my fellow educators on the ground working as teachers, school administrators, district administrators, and the like. See so many of you here with us. Okay, I'm gonna end the poll now. So let's do that. And we will just share the results with you just for your own information. Many school administrators and teachers here with us today. Also, many of those who are actively developing those skills of the Portrait of a Graduate, but there's also a large group that's either unfamiliar or just developing or establishing that, and hoping probably to learn from this session today about how they might develop those skills of a Portrait of a Graduate. So let's move forward. I'm going to start with a question today, and that question is this. What is the purpose of school? What's the purpose? Think about that quickly. Could you define that? How would you identify the purpose of school? Let's be aspirational here. You're welcome to write your answers in the chat as you define the purpose of school. Just as I'm thinking about that, and as you're writing, I'm going to just mention a few things. You could think about the civic purposes of school or the economic purposes of school. One, I don't want to be too shallow and think about just, hey, we send students to school so they can be babysat and not necessarily have to be, so their parents can go work and that's what drives their economy. That's not the shallow kind of thinking that I'm looking for here. Be aspirational. What is the purpose, the true purpose behind school? Some of those things that we see when we look at the purpose of school, some of the common threads of answers that I hear are we want students to be contributing members of society, become lifelong learners, be successful in their life. Okay, those are some of those purposes of school that we tend to aspire to. And so with that, just take a look at what we've been doing for a long time. So our purpose has always been to prepare students to contribute in our society and to be successful in their life and career, become lifelong learners. Those have been enduring purposes for education for some time. Our current system was established during the industrial age, where we wanted to prepare students for that successful future in a routine workforce, and we did that to perfection. But now we've lived more than 30 years in the information age, where information's been more accessible than it's ever been, and we still teach and assess as if information were scarce in a lot of our schools. It's clear our assessments, especially those high stakes assessments, rarely value resourcefulness or any sort of ability to find information and access the information you need. And if you need further evidence of that, just simply step into a testing center near you, right? Those places are more locked down than an airport. So you know what I'm talking about when you think about assessment, especially the high stakes assessment. So you see, if all the information in the world were locked up in dead trees and wise minds, then education system that really valued the delivery of information and the retention of memory, that would be accessible, but we are way past that. And so today we live in an innovation age where routine skills that can be automated are being automated. Those routine skills from both white collar bookkeeping and blue collar work on the assembly line, those are being automated away, and the opportunities for our students in the future will require at the forefront skills that cannot be automated by machines. In fact, we want to teach students to complement the work of machines in their building of essential human skills and dispositions. And we see that trend accelerating right now in the age of automation. But despite that, our students are taught and assessed heavily on routine skills that machines already manage, that goodies you can always find on Google, calculations that a computer can do for you, or abilities that an app has rendered obsolete. And so we think hard about this question, and we wonder, as my friend Tom Herrick asks this question, are we designing our schools for students' futures? Or are we still designing them based on the nostalgia of parents past? I want you to focus on the purpose that you've identified, that one you've recently identified, because the portrayal of that purpose and the identification of the skills that students need, that's what we talk about when we talk about a portrait of a graduate. What are the skills students need to be successful? What is our true purpose in education to develop these types of learners and these skill sets? And so we will ask you eventually to share your knowledge. Many of you are already identifying yourself as those who are teaching, assessing, and reporting, and really focusing on these skills. We're going to ask you to share your knowledge if you're willing today, the roughly 18 or 20% of you that were in that category. That would be great. Today, we want to point you towards ensuring that your focus on your purpose is really one of what you've defined. And what we want to look at now in the space where COVID has forced us to take a hard look at what we're teaching and see if it's truly essential, and focus and frame our discussion on this kind of design challenge. How might we develop the skills essential for student success in life? How might we do that? How might we focus our time and effort and energy, just like we've done on academics, on developing these skills? And so in Iron County School District, when we take on complex opportunities, we use IDEO's human-centered design thinking process. It's the same process that we also use with students, which we'll get into here in a little bit. And it helps develop those skills, those essential human skills. So I'm going to invite you actually to come with us on this journey today and explore 3 phases of this human-centered design process as we take on that challenge of how might we develop these skills essential for students' success in their future. So with that, the 3 phases we'll go through is first, inspiration, to do research, get smart on our challenge, understand both expert and the opinions, and empathize with stakeholders who we serve in our community. Come up with lots of ideas, and that's where we're really going to focus the bulk of our time today. So we focus on those ideas of how you can teach, assess, and report these things and really develop these skills with your students. And then ultimately, how do we go about implementing that? I'll give you some ideas for that as we make plans for implementing these types of work. So with that being said, We're going to quickly watch a video of some expert opinion on getting started on this challenge.
For all of human history, the primary focus of education has been acquiring more content knowledge. And the only way to get it is through the teacher, right? You don't have to do that anymore. Today, content is ubiquitous. It's free. It's on every internet-connected device. And it's growing exponentially and changing constantly. The world simply no longer cares how much our kids know. What the world cares about is what they can do with what they know, which is a completely different education problem.
A recent study by the RAND Corporation found out that among the state tests that are used for accountability, only about 2% of the items on the math tests measure higher order thinking skills. 98% of the items are, can you apply an algorithm and do the procedure? The problem with that is that quite often people who can identify a particular problem format and crank out an answer, or find and guess an answer from a list of 5, which schools spend a lot of time on, cannot reason their way through a mathematical application in the real world.
We have to prepare students to be resilient, to be thinkers, to be collaborators, to be communicators. We have to prepare them in such a different way.
I think there's a sharp trade-off between what can be tested easily on a large scale and what's important in life. Think of a different universe where you're asking kids to invent a science experiment, write a creative essay, come up with an interesting historical perspective on an event they care about. Far more important challenges for a kid, far more aligned with what they need to do in the real world when they graduate. Much harder to test, and very hard to say you got a 731 on this experiment and somebody else got a 627 on the experiment. So that's the existential trade-off we face in education.
There's some really big questions here is, what should we be teaching? Who are our major stakeholders? So getting that consensus among all of the players, the parents, the teachers, the business community, the politicians, of this is what we want our end product to look like. This is what we want the students coming out prepared to do, not just to know. Until you get that aligned, getting tough doesn't matter, because you're getting tough on what?
I would argue that beyond the morality of this issue, it's simply a matter of self-interest for all of us. Because if we don't train and teach and really support children from all these backgrounds, they become our responsibility or our fear, the source of our fear. Because we have to teach them about what we consider most important in our society. This is not about something that would be nice to do. This is about the very essence of our future. This is about who we become as a nation.
Okay, hopefully you've been able to get something from that piece. I think it's important that we ask our community, just as was mentioned in the video, what are those skills students need to be successful, and insert your purpose here, whether that's be successful in life and contribute to society, or whether that's whatever your purpose is, becoming a lifelong learner. It's important to ask your community. And why is it important to ask your community as well as seek expert opinion like we've heard? Well, the reason is good design starts with the perspectives and the needs of the people you're designing for, or else you get nonsensical solutions like this one, where you see these solutions where I think companies like Apple have designed a beautiful product, right? It's beautifully designed, it looks great. And in order to avoid any notches or misgivings on the top of the mouse, let's put the charging station on the bottom of the mouse. And of course, that's great in beauty, it looks wonderful, except when you need to charge it, then it doesn't work. It's unusable. And so, again, you need to go back to your community, those people who you're serving, and ask, what are those essential skills that you want to see? And that should drive your work. It's what we've done in Iron County School District. As we've sought the perspective of stakeholders, we reached out to post-secondary educators, business leaders, community leaders, educators, of course, parents, students, the whole gamut, to find out what are the essential skills students need to be successful in their future. And these are just a sampling of some of those pieces we got. We ultimately received many of these pieces from the Portrait of a Graduate, which is found here at portraitofagraduate.org. That we've taken many of these pieces and uploaded them into our survey for our parents and our stakeholders. And ultimately, we came out with this as our end product. These are our essential 8 skills in Iron County School District, which have been adopted by our board as standards to be taught, assessed, and reported throughout K-12 education. And so it's important to our community. It ought to be important to our educators, and it certainly is. These are skills that most find really important. And we've also been inspired by models at the state level and other districts. And I would encourage you to seek inspiration from both our model, your state's model. Our state has done a wonderful job developing the map, the Utah map, which is their talent map to develop the portrait of a graduate for students throughout the state of Utah. And you'll see a lot of overlap in these skills, such as the 4 C's, economic literacy, responsibility, resilience, growth mindset, and the like here. And so, and often that's what you'll find with this, is you'll find a lot of overlap when you develop these with your community as to what other communities have said, because these are the truly essential human skills for students. So now, as we move forward, let's think about ideas that can help us develop and highlight these skills. What does instruction look like? What are some things we can do at our school that'll help develop these skills? How can we assess and report these things? So first thing I'll mention before I pass it over to our teachers is holding school-wide or district-wide events is something that can do well to both encourage students to develop these skills as well as showcase them and really report them to your community who's asking that you develop these skills. So whether that's an entrepreneurial Shark Tank, a TEDx style event for your students, a maker fair or film festival or the like, these bring students creative abilities, their ability to communicate, to be resilient, to take feedback, and to grow all into account as they develop these skills. In addition, some of the things we've been using in our district-wide is an integrated instruction model for using design thinking and design challenges to take curriculum that teachers have been using and to actually integrate those essential skills through a design challenge. And so you can see curricular examples here for designing solutions for hunters inspired by the properties of animals in their science class, or designing solutions for combating fake news and hate speech that respects the First Amendment of the Constitution in their government class. These are pieces that will both integrate content and essential skills, and we've seen great results. So I brought both some teachers from Launch High School to talk about how they develop these skills, how they use design challenges and the like to develop these essential skills in our students. I'll turn that over to them.
Hi, Heather Lambert here. I'm really excited to be here with you today. I'm going to start by addressing the fact that there are many problems that we face today, both in our society and in our world. Current national and state standards call for students to be involved in the solving of these problems. Human-centered design is a great way to interest your students. Something that educators need to recognize is that creativity is not necessarily a trait that people are born with. Sometimes we have that illusion, but let's just look at the definition. You can all see it there. How do we teach our students to come up with new creative solutions that are unorthodox and that come from a fresh perspective? So I'm just going to give you a couple of examples of methods maybe that you could use. This is called Scamper on the left. Maybe you could provide your students with some kind of an idea and have them substitute. Find part of a concept, a product, a service, or a process that could be replaced with another that would improve or increase efficiency. They could combine things together. Sometimes it's not necessary to come up with something that's entirely new. By combining ideas that already exist, a more productive outcome may arise. Sometimes you might want to adapt. Solutions may already be at your feet. For example, the Heinz company used to make only ketchup. It has expanded by adapting products to be more in line with like local spices and taste preferences. Students could minify, magnify, and the list goes on. Human-centered design supports and teaches creativity. If you can't tell, I'm focusing on creativity. In the spirit of Halloween, and I'm still a science teacher. I'm a lover of science. And this is a project that I have done with my middle school kids in the past to kind of get them excited about Halloween. And so I would start with the design process, and I'm just going to kind of take you through that as I would take the kids through this process. So I would introduce problem and provide them learning opportunities. So for example, in this case, how might we create our own fake blood for Halloween by using common ingredients found in our homes? I'd give the students time to, and the resources that they would need to learn what's currently being used to make commercial fake blood, as well as time to study the properties of the materials that I'm going to make available for them to use. The next thing that you want to do is you want to provide constraints and criteria for your students. Like they need a budget, they need to know how much time they have, what materials and resources they're going to be able to use. And you also want to always make sure that you're making those connections to content for them. In this case, all I told them is it's got to look real, but it's got to stay on your face or on your skin. It can't just be dripping off. That would be a problem. And I would give them a list of safe materials that we would be using. At this point, I want them to start designing possible solutions. So that would be the third part of our design process. And I would allow them to just make their blood, to just try it out. You absolutely have to give your students time, resources, chances to improve, as well as coaching along the way. I think that's one of the big things that we miss out on, is we have kids do activities or whatever, and then we never go back to it and let them fix stuff, because the kids know when they've messed up, right? And they know what they want to do to fix it, and we need to give them time to do that. So at this point, I would have all the students, as the kids were doing here, present their fake blood, and I had them do some different tests and things, but they have to talk about their successes and their failures. They might take suggestions from their peers and their teachers at this point before making improvements during round 2. As I said before, the kids know when they've made mistakes and they know what they want to do, but without opportunities to improve and refine, a large portion of learning can never be attained. Finally, keep in mind that you're going to have some students that are going to require more structure than others. Be prepared to give that to them. Maybe some kids can't handle a big list of materials. Maybe you just give them a few materials that they're going to research, or you might pick their group or something. And we all know the students that need a little extra help. But just to kind of end here, creativity in the classroom corresponds to more engaged and confident learners. And that human design process is excellent to help teach that. Sorry, down. Oh, spacebar, sorry. Maybe. Sorry. Sometimes when teaching the masses, it's kind of difficult to foster creativity in the classroom. For example, you might have limited resources, not enough time, students on all ends of every spectrum that there possibly could be. And it just seems most feasible to do one-size-fits-all lessons with everything just lined out step by step. Everybody's doing the same thing all the time. However, studies show that students who are given opportunities to think creatively are more deeply engaged in the learning and problem solving. They're able to think critically. They take responsibility for their own learning, and they learn at a deeper level. If we want our students to think outside of the box and make real changes, create solutions to tomorrow's problems, we have to follow the example of Miss Frizzle and allow students to take chances, make mistakes, and get messy. The next before we go on, we'll look at some creation tools, like especially if many of you are online with your students, some different platforms that you could have your students use would be like Adobe Spark, where kids would make graphics or videos. Tinkercard, they can make 3D digital designs there. Minecraft might give them a chance to build and mine. Lucid Chart or Lucid Press for brainstorming and whatnot. I'm going to cover a second topic, but let's watch a video first.
Yes, now, on the St. Louis team, we have who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
That's what I want to find out. I want you to tell me the names of the fellows on the St. Louis team.
I'm telling you, who's on first, what's on second, I don't know's on third.
You know the fellows' names?
Yes.
Well, then who's playing first?
Yes.
I mean the fellow's name on first base.
Who?
The fellow playing first base for St. Louis.
Who?
The guy on first base.
Who is on first?
Well, what are you asking me for?
I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, who is on first?
I'm asking you who's on first.
That's the man's name.
That's whose name?
Yes.
Well, go ahead and tell me.
Who?
The guy on first.
Who?
The first base.
Who is on first?
Have you got a first baseman on first?
Certainly.
Then who's playing first?
Absolutely. Yes, now, on the...
Gosh, sorry, you guys. I thought I had to press this button. What do I push?
Inside, on the slide.
Oh, there. Got it. Sorry about that. Ever felt like Abbott and Costello when trying to communicate with someone, or like when your computer just won't work for you? Many students struggle to communicate with each other, with adults in their lives, and with just people in the community. When we talk about communication, there are several aspects to account for. Those include spoken words at only 7%. That's kind of a big deal. Your tone of voice at 38%, and nonverbal cues, which account for 55% of communication. This is a skill that we have to teach explicitly. A quick example. Yesterday, I told a student that she needed to do something before the day's end. She looked the other direction and said, okay. I had her look back at me and let her know that by looking away from me, I felt that she didn't care and that her okay was really not sincere. She was surprised. She really had no clue that her body language was giving me that kind of an impression. So keep in mind, well-developed communication skills are vital to a child's academic success. At all levels of education, students must be able to communicate well. Without well-developed communication skills, children run the risk of falling behind with their peers or becoming emotionally withdrawn or overwhelmed at school. Hopefully I hit the right thing this time. At Launch High School, students present solutions to experts in the field. They spend time looking at problems after they have studied things in their classrooms. They are to begin by designing and presenting solutions to these said problems that they're finding as they're going through their curriculum. The girls in the photo are named Maddie and Ashley. They're studying ecosystems in science, and they decided to look at several streams in the area, 2 that have been affected by wildfires and 2 that were not affected by wildfires. They've done extensive research into what attempts are currently being done to help in those areas so that those streams can recover more quickly. They'll prepare and present their findings and solutions to their peers and teachers at launch, in the state science fair, and finally to experts in the field, including the Division of Wildlife Resources and the BLM. They will practice, make improvements to their presentation several times, which is currently helping them to build confidence and to push themselves out of their comfort zone. They have told me multiple times, like, I am uncomfortable with this, but they're growing so much and I love it. Some things that you could possibly do in your classroom to help teach communication: role playing, have the kids practice their presenting skills. Whenever they do something, have everybody share what they're learning and doing. Having your students interview each other with questions that students have previously researched and that they're prepared to discuss, using circles to practice critical skills such as self-advocacy and how to address uncomfortable situations in their lives. Teaching skills like courses that include talking, interviewing adults and experts, having discussions about when it's okay to talk and maybe when it's not okay to talk. Using the good habit of teaching a concept and having your students explain or verbalize what they've just learned to one another. And a very important part of communication is teaching kids how to visually show what they have learned, making visual presentations. A few tools that you could use. You could have your students make a social media campaign on their platform of choice, have them use Powtoon to make videos and animations online. They could use Prezi to use motion, zoom, and spatial relationships to bring ideas to life and improve their presentation skills. And Anchor is a great platform that can be used to make mobile-based podcasts. As George Bernard Shaw said, the single biggest problem in communication is the illusion that it has taken place. Thank you for your time, and I'm going to turn the mic over to Cody.
Hello, everyone. I just want to talk just for a second before I get into my specific topic of growth mindset. But, this whole idea of a portrait of a graduate was just, so when it came along, especially our Essential 8, when we decided those here at in Iron County School District, I was just one of those teachers that actually fell in love with it right away and thought, man, where was this for the last 20 years as I was teaching and trying. I think we were always kind of teaching that, but less maybe less explicitly. And so it's been fun to be kind of managing a little bit of the chat and hearing what some of you had out there. And in fact, one of them was well-being. And I thought, man, in today's world and all the stress and anxiety that seems to be going around, what an important thing to teach kids. And I want to jump right in here to growth mindset, though. And I think growth mindset was one of those that caught my eye when our district first adopted our Essential 8. And I thought, man, how important to help kids to find out that their abilities aren't set in stone. And so there's really 2 kinds of mindset that Carol Dweck, one of the experts in growth mindset, has suggested. There's fixed mindset, and then there's growth mindset. And fixed, the kids just kind of believe, or even adults, we sometimes just believe that we have certain abilities and that's it, and they can't be changed. Where growth mindset is the idea that all of this stuff, we can grow in almost every area, even our intelligence. It's not something you're just totally born with. Now, that doesn't mean that some people don't have a little more natural talent in some areas, but it does mean that it's something can change and grow. And so, well, right off the bat, one of the things that I always try to do when I hear kids say, I'm not good at math, I usually say, hey, not yet, right? Or maybe you're still one that's trying to figure out how it all comes together. She also had a really good graphic here to show what happens when someone who has a fixed mindset faces a challenge. They want to avoid it. And I always compare that to when you go out hiking, or I'm a big mountain biker, and you come up to a hill, and if you go around that hill, if you find an easier way around that hill, and then the next hill's bigger, you'll never be able to climb that hill. And eventually you'll never be able to climb up and see all the beautiful views that are at the top of the mountain if you don't conquer the little things along the way. So a growth mindset would be someone who embraces those challenges and are constantly looking to improve, and they see challenges as a chance to prove themselves and get out there and give it a shot. They're also more willing to give more effort. Effort to someone who has a fixed mindset, they may not think it's worth it. And there's a whole bunch of other things on that. This growth mindset is how do you decide what really matters, right? And I know there's been a lot of different arguments about what is growth mindset and what is not. And but it's basically that idea that your initial talents that you think you have isn't it. You can always change them and grow. And so a lot of people immediately took growth mindset to mean that it was just effort, but it's more than effort, okay? It's getting them to actually think differently and refocus. For example, if someone has a mistake or they fail, you should say something like this: you've had a setback. What would you do differently next time? And I think it was Roland in the chat was talking about getting students to reflect on their learning. And I think that's the huge part of growth mindset was, hey, you didn't succeed this time. So what was it that maybe caused you to not succeed? And how can you do things differently next time? So teaching them that just because they failed this one time on a particular problem doesn't mean that they won't succeed next time, especially if they change their approach to the problem. I think another problem with growth mindset is a lot of times we immediately jump and say, well, it's just those kids who might be struggling academically. And I know I think I jumped to that right away. It was as a way to honor kids that were just putting in effort. And I think maybe that is teaching them to conquer the little hills along the way is part of it. But it's also what I've come to know, especially since we've started this Launch High School, is that it's for high achieving students. And I think sometimes we forget that high achieving students might be high achieving now, or students that are really doing well in school. We think that they don't have a problem with growth mindset, but if they believe that their success is based on their natural abilities, well, that may be fine now, but eventually they're going to hit a point in college or maybe even graduate school where then they start to struggle. And in some cases, they're doomed for even more dramatic failures because they never learned how to have a growth mindset and say, all right, what did I do wrong and how can I do better? They're just suddenly shocked that their natural ability didn't get them through. And I think that's even more scary for our students who maybe are academically gifted. So I want to share a couple quick stories at Launch High School. This is a student named Ria, and one of her projects is she was out hiking. She loves to hike out in our foothills around Cedar City, Utah. And she actually found some Native American petroglyphs that are not well known, but really close to that, she actually found a bunch of garbage. And so her project initially was just to put a project together to clean this up. And so I thought, well, that's a great idea, and it's definitely a service project, but what about those petroglyphs? And I'm going to show you a couple of the petroglyphs here. When she showed me the pictures, I'm like, oh, this is not going to do. Just cleaning up is not going to do. What do you think we ought to do to try to protect these? And it just lit a fire under her. And she was really scared. She's really quite a quiet young lady. She's, I don't know. I don't want to go out and do interviews and stuff, but she got over that pretty quick. She went out and she started actually interviewed some members of the Paiute tribe here and asked if it was theirs. They weren't even sure it was theirs. And I'll show you another slide here of what they found. Just amazing things that I think need to be protected. But long story short, she got up the confidence, I asked her to be ready for maybe some conflicts that she might run into, but also to prepare some questions that she would like asked. And she recorded the interview. And if we had time, I'd share. It was about 15 minutes. And it was, I was so proud of her, and I was proud of the Native American elder that really shared with her and actually helped her work through some of the processes that might have to take place to see if these were even Paiute tribal markings, and even if they weren't, what we could do to try to protect these. Just an absolutely fantastic project it's turning into. Another student, her name is Bree. She was riding the bus to school, and she felt, man, there's got to be a way to be more efficient. And so she just wanted to kind of drop a route that she thought might be better. And I said, well, that's nice, but why don't you do some interviews? Why don't you actually go to the bus garage? And again, she was another one that was just kind of nervous. And she went there. And again, I was just so proud of the adults too, not just her, but the adults who treated her with respect, even though she went in there with a little bit of a, hey, explain to me how these routes are built, because sometimes they don't seem that efficient. But the bus garage people were just amazing. And she learned, pretty quick that there's a lot more that goes into making a bus route than just, hey, it looks efficient. For example, I didn't know this either. All bus routes are built to try to have nothing but right turns, just for safety reasons and trying to stay out of high traffic areas. And anyway, it was just really cool. She actually was written up in the paper about her project and what she had done. And now she just beams when we talk about that project. She presented it several times now and inspired the rest of our students. So the last thing I want to talk about was I'll skip this slide. This is actually my brother-in-law. He started a business where he started with a backhoe, and it was just him. And with a few years of just constantly, he bought a couple more backhoes. He had a couple of employees. And after about 10 years, he was worth several $1 million, and he had over 100 employees. And so I want to tie this into this growth mindset is, teaching kids to conquer little things, and that will breed more and more success and more confidence till eventually, they truly reach their greatest potential. How do we assess this? Our district and our school, we put together proficiency scales, and you can see that they're pretty much the same all the way down, except for it says always, frequently, occasionally, and rarely. And one of the things, and again, about getting them to reflect on their own progress, what worked, what didn't, to not just say, well, you failed, that's it, you failed this test. Hey, how did you study? How can you do better next time? What different kinds of ways of preparing for this test or this assessment would make you more successful next time? Anyway, these are some of the things that we look to and helping kids to see if they're building a growth mindset. It's been a pleasure to be with here, and I'm going to turn the time back over to Corey.
Thank you, Cody. These kind of integrated assessment tools like proficiency scales we've developed, of course, are not just for students at Launch High School where they're getting feedback on these type of projects all the time, but they're also for our students throughout K-12 schooling, including this example of communication skills scaffolded out and written in a proficiency scale for third grade students, indicating the skills where they're approaching grade level expectations, meeting those, and exceeding those expectations. These are the tools that not only drive assessment of these skills, but also drive feedback, help the teachers know what they need to explicitly instruct students to do so that they're developing these skills over time until they ultimately reach where we'd like them to be as they graduate our system. So some other tools quickly that we use to report student success on this is we teach our students about these skills, we assess them, and ultimately in their standards-based reports, and this is in Mastery Connect, our students can see how they're doing in the areas of, for example, in this class, responsibility, critical thinking, communication, in addition to all of the academic standards. So these are skills that carry a lot of weight for our students, for our teachers, for our schools, and for our future. And so we want to be able to have our parents and our students see visibility into their progress in these skills. So that's how this report works. Additionally, we've loved our partnership recently with the Mastery Transcript Consortium. This is a sample transcript from Launch High School, where this showcases the students' abilities and growth beyond just the cumulative GPA and the letter grades that they received. In fact, the front page highlights their skill sets, those things that they've developed in our essential areas, such as this student, you can clearly see, is a critical thinker. They love to, they're analytical and systems thinker who loves to tinker and design solutions. You can see their creativity and design thinking is something they accentuate, as well as their growth mindset and resilience. They earn credit in these areas through their evidence displayed in their portfolio, as you see some of the highlighted evidence on the right. This allows for our students to really represent their full self and not just be relegated to a letter grade to represent their thinking and their success in school. Although on the second page, it'll also list their courses and when they're completed without those grades. This is a master transcript. We're just excited about our partnership there. Another tool to report our success and our students' success in these measures. And so hopefully you've had some time now to think about all of this. We'd like to also offer up, if there is anyone in the audience who would like to share some of their experience in instructing or assessing or reporting these types of skills, to also share that. You're welcome to do that through the chat right now, or just simply unmute and allow yourself to discuss this with this group, as this is meant to be a knowledge sharing event. So we'll just leave a few seconds here for any who would like to do that.
Somebody asked about how we assess responsibility. Just one way that you could do it. Some of our teachers at other schools, they have students like complete assignments and things, and the students will grade their work, and then they will grade themselves how they did as far as responsibility goes. Maybe they would have some kind of a tracker or something saying, you know, if they get a 4, if they completed all their work, they get a 3, if they didn't complete all their work, or it's like partially done or whatever, and a 2 or a 1 if they either didn't get started or just barely began the assignment. So kind of having kids track their own work, that's one way that we've had them track responsibility, and we would just call it like a responsibility tracker. It's just one option.
Yeah, there are several, and there's a proficiency scale written for that as well to indicate other skills of responsibility. We'll also highlight one more here in just one of our last pieces of video. Anyone else like to share? They're welcome to just jump in here and share with us. We're going to plan to move on here in just 30 seconds to actually, how does this look like when it's implemented, implementing these things in instruction, design challenges, and whatnot.
Hi, I'm Corey with CAPS and the CAPS Network. I just appreciate the presentations, really good stuff that's happening. I'm very encouraged by the activity in the chat too. But I would just add something that we've done that I think has been successful for us. And just to give some context, we're working with high school students. It's a profession-based model, so that there may be some variation in how you would roll out for all of you, depending on what your model is. But we have incorporated a certain percentage of grading that happens in every class is actually tied to what we would call professional skills. So that includes how prompt are students to show up? Are they completing their task and they're working with their business partners? What's the feedback we're getting from the business partners? How are they working with other students? How are they dressed for success when the time is right? Are they presenting themselves effectively? And we felt like we had to include that as part of the evaluation of our students if we truly valued it. And so that it's kind of built into every course that we offer. The other thing I would share is that we've actually found that measuring confidence levels of students around their use of professional skills has been a very favorable thing for us in terms of finding new ways to measure the success of students beyond just content, retention, regurgitation, beyond standardized testing. I mean, a lot of the things that we're getting involved in, a lot of things our employers are telling us is we can teach them the information, we need them to be ready to be good workers, to be excited to be where they are, to work in a team, to manage a project. And so we actually evaluate at the end of every semester with our students their confidence level around doing those things. So if that's useful to anyone, just wanted to share that.
I love that. Thank you, Corey, for sharing that. I think very important that we value the skill sets that we're talking about. And I love how you've done it with grades. We've done similar things. Of course, we have a different skill set that we're looking at with our essential skills, but in some overlaps, of course, to what you're doing. And we do include those, as I mentioned, in our standards-based reports as part of students' grades. Included are those same essential skills. If we are to value these skills and we know that they're essential for the future success, why not teach, assess, report, and value them? I think that's important. Thank you for that. I'm going to move forward, but you're welcome to jump in. This is meant to be less formal than it is right now. You're welcome to jump in and interrupt if you'd like. Just a quick piece on how we use design challenges. I know there's some questions about that. What does that look like for the teacher and for the students as they move through a design challenge, integrate the curriculum, teach the curriculum that needs to be taught, as well as learn these essential skills. So we've got a quick clip to share that with you right now. Iron County School District has adopted the human-centered design process created by IDEO, which is used by professional organizations throughout the world. We use this process to help our educators tackle big issues like designing new schools and designing reforms to our district-wide grading systems. We also use this design thinking process to help our students build the essential skills that our community has selected as part of our district's profile of a graduate. But what does this look like in the classroom? As students study Utah history and westward expansion, they learn about the Union Pacific Railway and the role of the railway in our local iron mines. Since today some of these railways in our county are unused, we ask, how might we make the best use of abandoned railways in Iron County? Students follow IDEO's design thinking process of seeking inspiration and understanding, generating ideas and bringing them to life, and implementing these ideas with real people or organizations. Students begin the inspiration phase by seeking understanding from local residents as to how they would like to see the railway best used. They practice communication skills as they interview residents to gain empathy for their point of view. Students begin the ideation phase by collaboratively generating bold ideas and solutions for making the best use of the abandoned railways. Here, they learn how to build off other people's ideas and other competencies required for good collaboration. Students then take these ideas and critically think about their solutions, reflecting on how they meet the needs of the people they are designing for as they refine their critical thinking and problem-solving skills. Next, they bring their ideas to life by designing prototypes of their solutions. Their capacity to be creative with the tools they have available and come up with original thoughts grows as they participate. Within the implementation phase, students seek feedback and critique on their initial solution or prototype. And instead of feeling discouraged about the critique, they exercise a growth mindset to create a better design solution and become resilient as they persist towards excellence, repeating the feedback process. Each student does their part to work towards a final product that they are proud of and exercises responsibility to meet the deadlines of the project. Students may also explore how to budget this project and make it sustainable over time as they understand appropriate aspects of financial literacy that would allow this project to move forward. This design thinking process helps empower Iron County students to solve real problems now, so they can be prepared with the skills they need to be successful no matter what their future holds. Okay, I hope that's been helpful for you. One of the things that COVID has really helped us to realize as we move towards trying to integrate these essential skills and design for that is really recognize some of the absurdities of our traditional focus. You know, traditionally we focused on fixed curriculum, on routine skills, high stakes assessment for those same routine skills, and a teacher-centric model of delivering content. And of course that has become, you know, we've been able to poke some holes of that through remote learning. Are we really going to teach students how to identify exponential and rational expressions when really they need social and emotional learning and these highly valuable essential skills? Are we going to focus around high stakes assessment, locking down students' browsers to assess them when really a tab away, the answer is away from them of something that they need to just look up and find and be resourceful? Are we going to encourage teachers to continually hold synchronous instruction all the time through Zoom? Or are we going to encourage the use of both asynchronous and digital modalities to do that? Now, digital alone isn't the answer. Of course, I think it might lead to some SERB models like this that are very computer-centric. We take this traditional focus on fixed curriculum and we just move it online. I don't think that's the answer either. It misses much of what we know is key to our purpose in education and what that's all about. If you think that this or other shallow virtual education models are your answer, I think the day of reckoning is coming for us on that. It brings to mind this quote from General Shinseki: "If you don't like change, you'll like irrelevance even less." See, if all we are as educators is content delivery mechanisms, assessing memory, then teachers will be replaced by machines. It's of course not what we want. In order to avoid that tragic automation of education, we need to shift our values and start to think about some of these things. Teaching, assessing, reporting essential skills and developing those in our students. Using a project-based model that not only encourages the development of those essential skills, but also reinforces deeper learning in the content and become more student-centered, more focused on their needs and their interests and less on our interests and our fixed curriculum. So as we transform schools that are fit for purpose, put more focus and energy into teaching, assessing, and reporting, developing these skills that you found and developed in your Portrait of a Graduate that your community has truly valued. You know, going that route is not going to be a quick detour. You know, it's going to be a journey. And if you want to ride confidently into the future, develop these skills, you'll need to bring a team. So bring all hands on deck. I hope this has really been helpful for you. We would love to encourage your feedback for us as presenters and see if this has been helpful as we present this to other educators. We also would like, so the link to that, I believe Nikki will put in the chat for the feedback link. But in addition to that, if you'd like to find this and this whole set of slides, we do have these slides available at tinyurl.com/Aurora Portrait. And it's also including some other pieces here, copy of our stakeholder survey for our Portrait of a Graduate and other, somebody asked for the video on the innovation playlist that we put out earlier with the video about essential skills and why those are so important. So much of that available in the chat. We're also happy to answer any questions as we wrap up. So if you'd like to stay and chat, you're welcome to do that. We thank you for taking time out today to find and participate with us here at Aurora Institute. Thank you very much.
Corey, that was great. This is Stephanie from Granite District.
Hey, Stephanie, how are you doing?
I'm good. I should have stopped. I drove through Cedar City on Sunday on my way home from very sunny St. George to the slushy, snowy drive home. But
oh, unfortunate, right? To take that home. Well, yeah, we just missed you. We'll have to have you come down sometime.
I will plan for that. Is Launch a pilot program there in Iron, or is Cedar High, and let's see, you've got 2 other high schools down there. Are they also using some of this?
So some of this, yes, is district-wide. So standards-based reports, including reporting those essential skills, are part of reports K-12 in our district. However, the master transcript is piloted at Launch High School, and the personalized competency-based progression is also like giving credit based on mastery is also a pilot at Launch High School. So,
okay, good.
Yeah.
We've got, you know, our CTE team, you had James down and in the GTI, but you know, one of the obstacles we have with our big high schools is kind of convincing teachers that they can do this, that without a special population of kids who have self-selected to go to a special school, that the regular kid and that they can do that with a group of 40 students.
Yes, it is. It's not an easy sell. It'd be helpful to come and see it, I'm sure. It's interesting in our population what we've got, because we do have a lottery selection. So it's students who have opted to go in. I think that is important, but it's also, funny enough, not just students who are looking to like excel. We probably have like a third of our students who are really wanting to like move through high school quickly and move at their own pace and move ahead. But I would say 2/3 of our students are those who have been traditionally unsuccessful in school, who have found that like the traditional programs have not really met their needs. They've failed classes, they've done poorly. And so it actually probably takes a little more time and effort. And our teachers, as you probably noticed, as you saw them today, they're just excellent and are really great at working with those students individually to both build those skills and also help them be successful in a model that requires self-direction and requires these essential skills. So,
yeah. Is your building a blended learning? Do the students have some in-person versus some online on a non-COVID weird year?
Yeah, even this year. So we have students, about half of their curriculum is available to them online, and the other half is really project focused. And so teachers are there to help them intervene, give targeted instruction and targeted supports for students through as they progress through that blended learning component, as well as help mentor and provide relationships and guidance and feedback on their projects. So
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll have to come down, Stephanie. What is your role again in Granite? What are you up to
I'm
there?
in the curriculum department. I'm the associate director over online learning.
Oh, great. Okay, well, yeah, this would be a good fit. I'm also helping to direct our programs that are purely online. And so there's a lot of, similarities there. A lot of things so you can include personalized competency-based progressions that are both in person and online, and some hybrid options. So, well, great. It's good to meet with you. We'll have to connect later. You've got our email there, so feel free to drop me a line.
I can see in the chat that you're going to get invited to participate at the curriculum directors meeting. I'm pretty sure here in Utah.
All right, sounds good. I'll be there. Okay, thank you, Stephanie.